Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to Man Cave Meals. Today, once again, we're going to fire up the Lonestar Grillz pellet smoker and we're going to cook a brisket. I've got a nice 17+ pound prime grade brisket from Sam's Club and we're going to put some smoke on it. So let's get started. We're going to get this party started by putting together some of my homemade beef rub. You should use whatever your favorite beef rub is, but if you want a new favorite beef rub, you should try this one. And I'll give you the exact ingredients in the video description. I'm going to start out with some coarse kosher salt, some freshly ground black pepper, granulated garlic or garlic powder. I've got some freshly ground coriander, freshly ground cumin, some paprika, a little bit of chili powder, and this may or may not be MSG. And I'm just going to take my whisk and mix that together, and this is what we're going to put on this brisket. We're going to get started here with the grill. I'm going to fire this thing up to 225 and we're going to let it preheat. I went to Sam's Club today to get a brisket and they had their prime grade beef on sale for $3.98 a pound, and I found a really decent looking full packer here that weighs in at 17.5 pounds, and it's got a nice thick end on the flat. So I'm going to unpackage this thing and I'm going to go ahead and trim it. I'm not going to show the trim. There's tons of videos on YouTube on how to trim a brisket, so we'll be right back. Okay, I've given my brisket a fairly aggressive trim. I've rounded it off down here on the end, and I've taken off the silver skin up top, and I've taken off all but about 1/4 inch of fat on the back. And I've got a nice bit of trimming here. I've got about 4 pounds of fat. There's a little bit of lean in here as well, but I'm going to render this down while we're smoking this brisket. I'm going to put this on the smoker to make some smoked beef tallow, and if you come back at the end of the video, I'm going to show you that as well. So my next step in prepping a brisket is I'm going to use a little bit of a very thin layer of a mustard binder on today's brisket to help hold my rub in. Sometimes I use mayonnaise and sometimes I don't use any binder at all, but use whatever works for you, and just get a nice really thin coat on there. Smear it on there just as thin as you can possibly get it. After I get the binder on, I'm going to come back and we're going to shake on some of that homemade rub that we just made, and I'm going to get a pretty nice coat of that. This is a big piece of meat, so you want to get plenty of that salt on there. And once I have that on there, I'm just going to kind of pat it in place. I'm going to rotate it up on the side, and we're going to get all sides of this thing. And then we're going to roll it up onto the fat cap side. I'm going to cook fat cap up today for the first part of this cook, and we'll show you what's going to happen with that later on. So just get your rub on here, and we're going to let it sit for a few minutes while our grill comes up to temperature. Okay, my Lonestar is up to temp. Like I said, we want to run it around 220, 215 to 225 during the first part of this cook. I'm going to start my timer so we'll have a timeline of how this is going. My objective here is to do a brisket cook where I'm going to start it tonight and be able to serve it for dinner tomorrow night. So we're looking at 20 to 24 hours on this entire process. So we're up to temp. So I'm going to break this guy open and we're going to put this brisket right up here on this top rack. I'll pull that out. Actually, we're going to start this one on the bottom because it's a little thick for the top rack. And we'll put that right down there. And I'm going to take our fat trimmings that we've got and set them back here as well. Set them up top where that cut stuff can just render. And we're probably not going to open this grill again to look at it for, I'm going to say 12 hours. So we'll be back in the morning and I'll show you where we're going to go from there. We've been going almost 13 and a half hours now. Things are looking pretty good. That brisket's got some beautiful color, and let's see where we are on the temperature. We're at about 184 there. Let's check back here. About 185. 186. So we're going to let this guy keep going. My objective here is to bring it up to close to 200 degrees. So I am going to ramp the temperature up to about 300 degrees. Okay guys, we're just a little over 14 hours here, and I believe I'm right where I want to be on this brisket. It's looking beautiful, and we're probing somewhere between 193, 195 everywhere on this brisket. So I'm going to take this off and we're going to wrap it in some foil. So I've got this guy wrapped up in foil, and I'm going to put it in a hotel pan where it's just a little easier to manage from here. We're going to set this back on the smoker. I'm going to lower the smoker temp to about 170 degrees, and we're going to let this guy do a long low rest at about 170 for 7 or 8 hours until time to serve for dinner. So let's close this back up, and we'll be back to have a look at it when we're ready to serve. So here's all our fat that I had rendering in a Dutch oven. I'm going to pull the pieces out here that did not render, and we're going to throw those away. So I've taken a mason jar here, and I'm using my canning funnel with a little bit of cheesecloth, and I've transferred this tallow into a measuring cup so it's a little easier to pour in here. And I'm just going to pour that tallow through the cheesecloth, so any bits that are left behind there will get caught in the cheesecloth. And I've got about a cup and a half here, and I'm going to leave that last little bit behind, and then I'm just going to pull that cheesecloth up and let it drip for a moment, and then I'm going to set that away. And then I've got a nice jar here of smoked beef tallow. I will put the lid back on that jar, and I'll take it inside and just let it sit at room temperature, and it will solidify again and it'll turn white. And this is a perfect cooking fat. I love to use this when I'm cooking on my griddle, or if I'm going to saute in a pan. This little bit of smoked tallow makes a beautiful fat for that process, and it's something that keeps you from having to throw away the fat from your brisket. Or lots of people like to drizzle this back over their brisket before they wrap it. I don't really find a need for that, but I love using it for all these other things. Okay, we've been going 21 and a half hours now. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. This brisket's ready. It's been ready for a while, so I'm gonna pull out here and we'll have a quick look inside the foil. Looks pretty crazy. This thing is extremely tender. Yeah, that probe just falls in there. It's got the jiggle. So we'll get it out, and this is ready to serve, so we'll have a look. Okay guys, this brisket's ready. It looks perfect. It's got that jiggle we all want to look for. So let me just cut down through a section of it here where we can pull it open and have a quick glance. Look at that. That looks amazing. I'm going to take a slice right off of there. Give it the old bend test. It just wants to come apart. This method makes an extremely tender brisket. So Let me have a taste of this. Let me just pull some of that off there. That's fantastic. Man. Absolutely crazy. Let's take a piece of that. And I've sliced off some more of this here where you can kind of get an idea of what the smoke ring looks like here. It's kind of hard to see here, right up across the top. No smoke ring on the fat cap side, so I didn't trim my fat cap thin enough probably for that. So anyway, this method makes a beautiful brisket. You know when it's going to be done. So guys, give this a try. Let me know what you think. Until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.